happy hour. We're gonna have some fun. What's going on there? So we will get into that. But first things first, Steve, how was your week?
We and I actually played a course I hadn't played since early driver out there. I had 215 in downwind, and I pulled out that Cobra Dark Speed 4 hybrid, and with that, it never left the flag stick, and it was so much fun to watch. Like that combination, and that club is so good. And yeah, I definitely shout out to them, because both of them, that club and club head combination and that ball are just unbelievable.
I use it for putting, and it's a game changer. But also using it like just as the mindset it's supposed to get you in that right state of mind for when you're standing over any kind of shot. So, my weekend was good. It was busy. We're in full fall here in Indiana. So at the museum, we are having a lot of fun this year. Have had a bunch of different organizations come in, a bunch of
twigs and branches and leaves all piled up for the trash collectors to come through. So I feel like we're back up north down here in Central Florida.
Well, that's what I said when the first hurricane came through you guys and went up and through North Carolina. I did get up here to Indiana, and my yard was all twigs and everything. And I said, man, it looked like a hurricane came through here. So
yeah,
it's crazy. So like we said before, I mean, if you can donate to help with hurricane relief out there. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Yep.
I will in a bit, buddy. So I just had to run in here. So
nice. Hey, Ollie. All right, let's jump into first round, because we got a busy show tonight.
This has been an aging topic.
Yes.
So we talked about it. We talked about $750 to go to the Ryder Cup. But guess what?
If you want to hear more about it, go check out our halfway house that aired on Friday.
Exactly. If you want to hear more about that,
talked about it.
But if you're out there thinking, you know what, I can volunteer and get around this, and it's usually a reasonable price. They've now put out that the volunteers is what, $350 if you're going to volunteer. So not only are you volunteering your time, you're giving them $350.
Correct. Which I don't. Okay. Bay Hill volunteers, because my dad's actually debating on doing it this year. It's $125.
Yep.
You get one shirt, one jacket, lunch every day, tickets in. And if you work 4 days, or what is 40 hours, they give you you get a round of golf for you and a guest. But the guest has to pay $125 if they come with you.
Still worth
it.
I mean, that's
still worth it.
That's a Bay Hill. That's fine. I mean, they used to do in the past at Bay Hill, you got a foursome as your
it's now a twosome. And you can only use it during the summer, obviously. They're not going to do peak season, but still worth it. Still worth it. And 100%. I will say this, from what I've been told from the volunteers there and the volunteers at Lake Nona, it's a lot easier to get out of Bay Hill than it is to get out of Lake Nona from the volunteers at Lake Nona when they do it for the LPGA tournament.
That is true. And I'll even talk about the Heritage. The Heritage in South Carolina does the same thing. You volunteer and you have to pay. And what you're covering when you're paying these costs is you're covering for like a shirt, a hat, and a jacket, like, or a polo.
Yeah. And a lot of times they give you like a drawstring bag too to keep your stuff with you on
exactly.
the course. Yeah, I mean,
but that's where this cost comes in there, because you're getting a lot of this stuff at cost, because these have connections with different clothing companies. I'm gonna give a shout out to American Fits. So if you're looking for a good shirt out there,
the second shameless plug of the night. There we go.
Dave's
not here.
Rogers
isn't here tonight, so yeah, we got to cover for Dave.
He's being fancy and sipping wine in France.
Yeah.
So, but with that, that's where a lot of these costs come in. So now $350 to me says, well, we're charging $7.50 for the tickets, so we can't let you get away with just paying
Yes,
like $125 to volunteer.
correct.
Like, that's what that sounds
From
like.
what I understand, the majors. I've got a buddy that's done the U.S. Open. He said it's about $200, but they give you 2 shirts for the U.S. Open.
Oh, the US Open hooks
Two,
you up. Like, that's and
yeah,
I and
theirs is
people
pretty
love
good. Yeah,
volunteering at that.
yeah, and it's about $200. But $350 to be voluntold what to do and where to go, and I just again, the cost of this is really getting out of control between the US between what the PGA is doing for ticket prices, and it reminds me of what they did in LA last year at LACC for the US Open, which turned into a bunch of corporate people with tickets, and the fans really couldn't get in because it was just a corporate grab bag of people that were just paying for corporate sponsors and this, that, and the other were the only ones that got in, and they're going to be the only ones that can afford this because they're outpricing the average person.
Yeah, and that's gonna be the thing, and now you're even outpricing volunteers too, because
Right.
a volunteer thing is they're giving you their time. Volunteers, and like I said, I work at a museum.
Mike, it better
Volunteers
be
are
American
lifeblood.
fit. It better be American fit. Rooting on Team USA, red, white, and blue. Let's go.
The but what I'm saying here is volunteers are the lifeblood of a lot of stuff. My mom volunteers at places, and volunteers help run places. They are, the heart and soul of a lot of places, and
Yep.
if you're now gonna charge them $350, these are people who wanna come out there and work for you. It's
Yep.
volunteer. They're not hired. They're not doing anything else, and now you're price gouging them on this? What is the point? I mean, what is the point of $350? Oh, so I wanna go into this. I saw Sunday Red. Did you see what they're charging for a ball marker?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Am I going to put it in my bag? No, I'm not. Like, and if you're paying that much for a ball marker, I mean, I don't even want to go down this road. I mean, we're going
Yeah,
down volunteering, but like, if you're going down that road, are you even going to put the ball marker in your bag? Or are you
no,
going to put it on a shelf somewhere? Like,
put it
it's
on a
going to
shelf
sit on the
somewhere.
shelf behind you with your cards that are sitting up there. That's where it's going to sit.
Which
And
I'm
it's a
not,
collector's item.
and exactly, and that's what that is, and this
Yeah.
volunteering is not a collector's item. It's something to do, it's something to be nice, it's something to help out, and you're gonna charge me $350 to do it?
Yeah. I have a hard time with what the PGA, again, this is really, um, uh, it's really turning into what I think is a money grab for the PGA. It's a sad state for them right now, and I understand we're all, and it's a capitalistic society, and we're all trying to make a buck here, but it's gonna get like at some point. When do we all stop just paying for
And that's the thing. We love the PGA. We love
it?
the PGA Tour. We love the PGA of America. They're great, but at what point do you have to say, why are we outpricing our fans here? Because the fans are the people that make this. Like the players know, the fans are the ones who come and they pay for their tickets. But when are you making these tickets too expensive?
Price gouging to work.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before. It's how are you price gouging someone to volunteer?
Tier,
Like,
yeah. Like, uh, and I get it. You have every 4 years to make money on the Ryder Cup if you're the PGA. I mean, let's be real about it. Every 4 years you can make money on the
yeah,
Ryder Cup. But at some point, you've tripled the price in tickets compared to last year in from what they had in Italy at Marco Simone.
yeah.
They tripled the price of tickets. They are turning this into it, and let's be real, and we all know this. 4 years from now, they're not going to go backwards in price. It's gonna be $1,000 a day on the weekends for everybody going 4 years from now, minimally. They may double it to 1,500. I mean, when's it going to be $1,000 for for you to volunteer, and you're still getting 2 shirts, a jacket, a collector's pen, and a bag and a hat? Like, I can't. I know who that is. He's been on our show before. Hey, go wear your Travis Matthew. That's all I'm going to say, John.
All right.
But yeah, no. So, you know what? Let us know in the comments what you think. What do you think
Yeah.
about paying to volunteer? How much would you pay to volunteer at a prestigious event? So let us know in the comments below. because we'd like to hear from that. So let us know.
Perfect. All right, let's go right into happy hour.
Yeah, I'm pumped right now.
Might be here, right? Okay.
All right, so Steve's been pumped about this. I'm pumped about this. We are missing our Dave today, so we're going to welcome to the tavern another Dave.
Yes, we are.
So I'm going to welcome in Dave Shultz. Welcome into the tavern.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate being here. It's fun.
And Dave, I will say right off the bat, I am wearing a Yankees hat because I'm a Yankee fan. I have no ill will towards the Dodgers. I like the Dodgers. I think it's going to be a great series. I just don't like the Red Sox. So that's all I'm going to say.
I had this conversation earlier with a Yankees fan, and I just can't reciprocate.
Neither can I. So.
We know what we are. The Dodgers are turning into the Yankees of the West Coast because it's the same thing. They're a powerhouse out there. They pay a lot for their players, and they put good teams together. So it's fun to watch. This playoffs has been a blast, and I can't wait to. I told a friend of mine who's a big Dodgers fan. I said we're going to party like it's 1981, and he pointed out to me that the Dodgers won that series. So
yep, I'm great with that. Keep that up.
All right. Well, I was at the playoff game at Dodger Stadium that we lost to the Mets, and we paid $120 for our seats, and they were pretty good. My daughter was just looking them up. They're $1,000 or more for the same seats for the series.
Oh
you
yeah,
guys were talking about prices.
It's crazy. I went to the World Series when the Cubs were in the World Series, and I was there for the when they clinched against the Dodgers in the NLCS, and I partied there. That was an amazing party, and it was a lot of fun. And those tickets I got at face value, and were like $250 for that, and for that, that's a reasonable price. Like I think $250 for any sporting event is a decent price for playoff caliber championships.
Yeah, I agree. I just wish they would find a way of getting people that really can't afford it. Like they should have a section like every game, and even like at the Ryder Cup or the whatever where you guys were talking about. They should just figure out a way of giving away some opportunistic seats for people that just can't afford those prices to keep to keep the fan engagement, in my opinion.
And I'm going to give a shout out to the Pacers here. So Miles Turner on the Pacers here in Indiana, he has a whole section called Turner's Block that all you do is audition, and he picks this whole section for people for just that purpose. So people that are true fans that are going to be there, they're in like costumes and cheer, and it's great. And I think more teams should do that. Have those sections. Like Orlando City, you have the supporter section. I was an Orlando City season ticket holder. I didn't sit in the supporter section, but I love that in soccer. That they're cheaper seats, and they're the true fans. That
I don't know that
amazing.
Having been to a couple City games, I don't know that I would want to ever sit in the supporter section. I'll just leave it at that.
And it's standing only.
Yeah,
there's no
standing
seats
only
in that section.
You've got people with drums. Like it's a pretty cool experience. But I usually sit at the other end of the arena. So
yeah, my seats were on the other side. My season tickets were on the other side, and it was reasonably priced for season tickets. I mean, I don't even think the first season I paid $750 for the season, and I had front row behind the goal. Like. Amazing seats.
Yeah.
So, well, Dave, welcome to the tavern. We can go off on sports. That's what this is about. It's about talking about sports here. So, Dave, first off, for people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what NextLinks is?
Yeah, I mean, well, NextLinks is just a brand, but so myself, I was just a fan golfer, right? So I grew up, started playing golf when I was like 10, and my grandpa introduced me to the game. And then when I was in the Navy, I started playing for money, and then that was fun, right? Against the retired guys. And then I just got, I got hooked. And then, went into corporate America, got my electronic engineering degree, right? I was just basically an engineer working for, General Electric and the corporate man. And things were winding down 10 years ago, and Top Golf was winding up. And I'm like, wow, if that's the future of golf, I could come up with something way better than that. It was kind of my first thought. And that was back in, March 17th, 2015. And I said, what if you just take golf and break it up I'd already played simulator golf because I'm a fan. And even back in 15, simulators have been around for 15 or 20 years. And I'm like, why don't you just take that and add a real short game to it and create an actual game? And you actually would have something, right? And so I pitched that to my son, who was a senior in college. He's like, Dad, that's a good idea. And I couldn't get out of my head. So I spent about, 6 or 8 months doing due diligence while I still had my corporate career. And then I found an investor and quit my job and started, seriously doing it in about January 2016. So, here we are in 25. And so it started out as a brand called Reality, right? So I, just a little play on words, and we put a really nice deck together and seemed like we were going to take off. You spent about $250,000 at the golf industry show in San Diego in February of 16. Everybody loved it. And I'm like, oh, this can be easy. Right. And then reality hit in, and here we are, 9 years later, but you see it starting to come to life, right? The vision I just sort of talked to you guys about. So NextLinks was just really the technology play to bring the game to life. So I filed for a patent before I talked about the game at all, way back in in 2015. And when it got issued in 18, it was really robust. I'm like, okay, at least I got something to protect myself. And so I just started, talking to casinos and other places, and they really liked the idea, and, spent about $6 or $7 million of other people's money developing, the way to do it and sort of the vision for it. And then finally in 2020, the PGA of America and the PGA Tour decided that it was a good idea. They just decided not to include me in the process. So here we are.
So the next question that I have actually is right into that. The NextLinks facility and doing some research on it sounds an awful lot like what TGL is launching here in January. Is there a difference? Can you go into that? Okay.
No, it's exactly the same. All the people involved are all the people I've been talking to for 9 or 10 years. When they first formed the company, they called me, and I'm like, just give me a job, I'll help you guys, right? But they sort of opted me out of the whole equation, right? I was sort of persona non grata, and so I never quite understood why, but I just kept developing, and then Liv showed up, and next thing I knew, the Saudis were inviting me to the first Liv tournament in Portland, and I was telling them the story and showing them my IP, my intellectual property, and kind of telling them I thought the whole system was vulnerable still, and sort of challenged them to take what I'd started and finish it. And I think there's a whole nother lane to this thing that you guys haven't seen yet that's about to manifest, right? So TGL is basically my core idea, but it really, TGL is about getting the pros involved in this, what has to be a legitimate off-course game, right, with a roof over it. The real opportunity is sort of the expanded golf simulators, like a 1,1600 square foot, game that's basically the same game they're going to be playing in there. They can go into a sports bar or whatever, and it just to make you guys have played in simulators, right?
Yep.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
So when you get to the touch and when you get to the putting, there's no game. And have you ever finished a game on a simulator, start to finish?
I have.
Did you have any glitches? Did you have problems?
Oh,
did you
100%.
get a real score?
Yeah. I mean,
No,
yeah. I mean,
100%. You have to mulligan at times. And like you
Yeah.
said, the putting there's maybe one simulator out there that I would say has a decent putting, but it's just decent. It's still not anywhere close to the feel and touch.
No, and so for me, it's really about the core game. So the game they're going to play at TGL should become like a legitimate sport, if you will, with a roof over it. And now when the pros are playing it, the fans will start seeing it. And now you show up in a sports bar with, the $250,000 version of it that, has about 80 feet long, 20 feet wide is sort of the size that we came up with. We did a big project in Phoenix, right? Sort of dead center between 3 Topgolfs. And, everybody knew it was the next best thing. And next thing I knew, that company went Chapter 7. That was right before the PGA of America and the PGA Tour decided to run with everything.
So Dave, can you talk about, I don't know if it's in litigation or like conversations you've had with like the PGA?
I've no desire to litigate with them. I want to beat them at their own game, right? So
Okay.
I'm working with other people to advance what they're doing. I think there's a possibility that the players may not even support TGL because word's out on the street, that they really just ripped the whole thing off. So I think there's still a chance that Tiger and Rory are going to walk away from the whole thing, and
Okay.
support what the Saudi team has developed, the Golf Saudi team has developed in the last 2.5, 3 years that nobody's really seen yet, but I know it's happening because I pitched it to them, and then I think I'm going to get paid for my patent because it turns out that my patent was really special because I never put a contract against it, right? I sort of verbally licensed my patent because it came in the mail to myself because I filed for it before I started a company. So I just put it in a drawer, right? And then in 2020, when things started to get hot, I started talking to attorneys, entertainment attorneys, and they couldn't believe that I had this virgin patent, right? And then they're like, wow, that's ideal to become an asset in sort of the new NFT crypto world. They said the founders always screw up because they attach their patent to a contract or they, do something, and then it becomes sort of tainted in a way. But mine is just like it's still brand new. I just put the thing in a box, and because of crypto, what I think has happened, and we'll find out pretty soon, is I think they already monetized it back in 22. Because crypto is all software, so they could actually give me a piece of it. They asked me what I wanted, right, and I told them, and they could actually build in a piece for me without even telling me, right, and then they could go start selling that to other people and build value and increase the value of that asset. And so I suspect that's what's going to happen is that I'm going to get paid for my patent, by basically having somebody give me a digital wallet, if you will, right? That here it is, and it's worth a lot more now than when you pitched this to us 3 years ago.
Dave, can I follow up on what you were just talking about really quickly? And talking about the Saudis doing this, have they created one of these facilities yet, or does one exist that we could walk in the door right now and see?
So I haven't seen it because I sort of opted to stay in the dark. If you think about disruption, right? The ideal way to disrupt is nobody knows about it. And because of, I was pretty patient and because of the strength of the work I'd already done for 7 years and because of the way the Saudi team has approached me, right? So I've known about them since 15, and they just want to grow the game of golf in their own country. And they were running into roadblocks in the U.S. as well because it's tough to do business here. Mm-hmm. And Yasser Al-Rumayyan, His Excellency, the sort of the main guy that everybody knows, he hired a DC lobbying firm 3 years ago, and he never contacted me, but the lobbying firm contacted me, and they said, Yasser gave us your number. And I said, oh, that's a good sign. So I felt pretty good. And then Majid Al-Saror is sort of Yasser's high school buddy, that took over the golf project for him. He's the chairman of Saudi Aramco, right? One of the biggest oil companies in the world. And it happens that my corporate career was also in oil and gas. So we had, there was sort of a natural credibility, I guess, that I had with them because of my previous work. And Majid was just so inquisitive. That was in, at the Portland tournament, the first live tournament in June of 22. And he just asked me what I wanted. And I said, well, I just want to monetize my patent and I want to participate, right? I want to be part of this. I love the game and I want to be part of creating what's next. And so he took that and we had a few more Zoom calls and, that was all before TGL or Tomorrow Sports or Top Golf or Callaway changing their name to Top Golf Callaway, right? That was all before any of that happened. And the timing of some of our calls always led me to believe that they were working on something. And I suspect they're about ready to show us all, what they've come up with. So I think the answer is I think it's happening, and I think there is something like that. And I think the pros have seen it and played it. I think Tiger certainly has been involved in it here this last 3-4 months. And I suspect that it exists, and it's probably this golf court. So I sort of donned it like, paddle and pickleball. And I said, there's got to be a golf equivalent of that. And So the golf court at 80 by 20 is just about 2 pickleball courts, end to end. And that's
So
what I really pitched as the real disruptive. I'm like, if you guys build the right game, around that, nobody will ever buy another simulator for commercial applications, because that's not the game. I said that the important part is that you guys actually figure out how to create a game that people want to play. And if you create a game people want to play, then you're done, right? And
Yeah.
If you have the patent to protect it, then you're really done and you're in really good shape. And so just by watching everything they've been doing over the last 3 years and kind of, I'm like, oh, there's Yasser doing a deal with the RNA. There's a Yasser doing a deal with, the Hero World Sports guy. Oh, there's Yasser doing a deal with Rupert Murdoch, the guy that was just at the DP World Tour. And so I feel like they were just treating me with a kind of a credibility or a level of respect that I hadn't felt in the whole, up to then. And so I've just had to kind of lean on faith to believe that they're going to, come through and sort of make everything right.
But they've been working with you to kind of go through your patent and your technology that you came up with and you designed. So, I mean, that's a good thing that's there. They're not just saying, oh, we saw this and now we're taking it. It seems like they've been in contact with you through the process, but you've also been like, hey, here's the technology. You make it come to life.
Well, yeah, so it was worse than just leaving me behind. I actually was targeted, right? Because once the status quo understood that my patent had value, because I chopped it to the Saudi team, right? And I'm sure they were kind of laying seeds. And so at some point, they knew they were going to have to get a hold of my patent, and it really got pretty personal. And I think that's going to all sort of come out and be public as well. And I think that's part of the drive. For me, it's about trying to get the players to just walk away from the status quo. And I think there's a chance that another 60 or 70 players are going to leave the PGA Tour and start a competitive league to live, funded by Live, right? So now you have the Shark Tour and the Tiger Tour, maybe the Shark Tour, the Tiger Tour, and the Rory Tour, right? If you take 50 or 60 players off the DP World Tour, because the future is really about these teams. And so when they started creating the TGL teams, I'm like, wow, those are structured exactly like the Live teams, right? And I'm like, that can't be a coincidence. So those teams are going to play in their own league, right? And I watched Tiger. He was sitting at the U.S. Open tennis tournament pitching Serena, and they were showing it on TV like 2 years ago. I'm like, oh, and the next thing I knew, Alexis and Serena were buying the LA Golf Club, one of the TGL teams. And so those are the kinds of things that just happen, right? And so just imagine if I had a contract with them, right? It would have got much uglier. So by, as long as I'm right, that they're not also, just trying to sort of take what I've done and run with it without me. I didn't need a contract because I sort of didn't ask for that much, right? When I told them to take the patent and develop it, it was because I didn't see that the status quo team was doing everything the way I would have done it or the way I thought it should be done. And I thought they could do it better. And they asked me, I'm like, just give me like 3%, right? You guys can have 97% of it. Just develop it the right way, make it global, make it a real game that people want to play. And 3%, I'll be set for life, right? So, I mean, that was kind of my mindset. And, I did the same thing with all the people in the U.S. market, David Pillsbury, who runs Club Corp, right? He and I have known each other since 2017, right? Jay Karen, that runs the NGCOA, I gave him $250,000 at that first show, to come out and show everybody what the future would really look like. And so, I know all those guys really intimately, and for whatever reason, they just didn't want to work with me. And I think they wanted me to sue them, right? Because I don't have any money. And they're like, well, we can defend that because we have money and he doesn't. And so rather than go the way that I felt like they wanted me to go, I tried to find another customer. And then that's when Majid and company showed up, and I liked them, right? So one of the things, real quick about the Saudis that us Americans kind of go, oh, Saudis, they're bad business people or they're going to rip you off, right? I've had the opposite experience, right? So I've known about them since 2015. They didn't even have a meeting with me until 2020 because they were getting all the input from all the status quo guys. And, but I was watching them. They were very professional. They were, I never had any concerns or issues with how they went about and did their business. And then when they invited me to the tournament, they gave me, first class, treatment and a lot of respect and a lot of time, right? We spent 3 days together. I spent a lot of time with Magic's team, and we were just, digging into the patent and talking about, all the stuff I'd done for the last 6 years. And so, honestly, I just wanted to make sure that the game came to life the right way so that it could actually have the impact on growing the game that I know it could. That was my main objective, and getting paid was sort of my secondary objective. And I think people just decided to take advantage of me because I was so, open with that philosophy. And I continued to tell all the people in the status quo, if you guys want to go try and steal from me, I know you might think about it, but I'm telling you, you're not going to win. Try it. So, here we are. The game's not over yet.
So, Dave, let me ask, were you the one that pulled the plug on the generator that flattened the TGL dome?
You can neither confirm nor deny those allegations.
It wasn't me. So it was either they weren't ready with the technology or this is business warfare, right? So, maybe the Saudis.
That never happens.
So I think the real game is going to take place in the Sphere in Las Vegas, right? I think that's how they're going to tease the players away from this TGL and say, look, we'll build a game for you and we'll play it in the Sphere. And not only that, we'll build 17 other spheres all around the world. And we'll make sort of a global 18-hole collection or 18-course collection, right? And so I think that's, I think that's.
I want to get to the question that was asked from our viewers today. How does this coincide with the rise of e-gaming?
Oh, well, so it's all related, right? So, a lot of what we did, is develop a putting game, right? So the way, when I came up with this idea for the simulator to the real putting, it was about the software and the technology to make that happen. And I'm like, I don't really need to worry about the simulator part of it because there's other people doing that. So all of our focus was really on creating a game out of putting. And, we did it in a lab and we played that game every day as a team, and we never used the simulator. We didn't even play the long game part of it because we had such a fun short game. And so, a lot of my really confidence came from when I realized that we had created the game. We just hadn't attached it to the long game yet. And that's, we had that, you showed that, I put that little one-page business plan together in October of 2018.
I pulled it up.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't mind, I'm going to pull it up. You sent it to me, I'm going to pull it up. So I set the slide up already. So
I was sitting in the club at Omni La Costa, and the Golf Inc. conference was there. It was October of 2018. Everybody in the business was there. I just spent a year sort of meeting with everybody and feeling bullish. And I challenged myself. I said, I wonder if I could write a business plan on one page in under an hour. And I was just sitting there in the bar and I started scribbling that. And if you look at where we're at today and analyze that one-page plan, that's exactly what they took. They're like, oh, that's brilliant. We'll take that, right? And so in there, you'll see that there's sort of 3 lanes. There's putting only, there's this integrated product, and then there's the, nighttime events. And then obviously there's this big game, right? I wasn't even thinking about this big TGL game anymore. That was my first plan, the reality. So the reality golf was the stadium version of the golf court, and basically a mere identical image of what's now TGL.
Wow. So that's really cool that you come up with like that we just showed there, and how it's kind of manifesting into different things in here. And I love that you have the passion that you want to just make this come to life here, and money will come later on. That's what we do this show. We do this for the passion and just for the fun of it. And that's what makes it more unique. And I think that's what makes it better sometimes, is when you have that passion for it to make something that's an alternate, because we all love playing golf, but there are some times you can't play golf.
So that's what drove me crazy about this whole process, right? Is when, remember when they announced Tomorrow Sports and TGL, the top people called me. And I literally said, just put me on the team, right? I said, I've got this patent, but I don't care. We'll deal with that later, right? Let's just go develop the product and get it right. And then we'll figure out, how I can get some compensation out of it. And there was just no interest whatsoever. For whatever reason, I must have rubbed a few people the wrong way, and they just didn't want to work with me, right? And so I had to just accept that, and I had to either crawl up in a corner and cry, or I had to find a way of competing. And lo and behold, the Saudi team showed up, and all of a sudden I felt pretty powerful because even though I don't have any paperwork, I don't have any contracts at this moment, right? So Jay Monahan could call me up right now and make me an offer. I probably wouldn't accept it, but I'm not bound by any, contracts. They just didn't want me to be a part of it. Bottom line.
Yeah. So Dave, I first heard your name probably 6-8 months ago, maybe a year ago. A friend of mine, he's been on our show before, John Pilkington, who you know. John, we were on the golf course and your name got brought up. I'll be honest, we were sitting in a golf cart and we were talking about this very topic, about what he used to do and working in the golf entertainment industry. And he's like, if the guy that you need to talk to is Dave. And I was like, really? So, he said every step along the way and everything that's gone on recently in the golf entertainment industry that you've predicted, whether it's the downfall of the Callaway Topgolf deal, Drive Shack being 13 cents a share at this point. Can you go back in a timeline and talk about where these brands failed and how we got to this point?
Yeah, so John was working at Drive Shack, and Drive Shack, so Rory's team was the first ones to try and steal from me. So Drive Shack was sort of supposed to compete with Topgolf, and I wanted to get a job working for them, right? But then I realized that Drive Shack and Topgolf were probably working together, right? It was pseudo competition, if you will. So the reason they all failed is none of them are actually trying to grow the game by developing good products. They're all trying to own the space. And so Drive Shack turned into the puttery. And it's when they put the puttery together that I got really nervous, because I'm like, oh shit, now they're going to steal my putting only game too. Right. And then they got Rory starting to back it. And I'm like, oh God, and now I got Rory going after me. Right. And so they all failed. And the reason I was able to predict all this is because there's powerful people that have actually been following my journey. So I've documented every single day since 2015, August, the day I filed for the patent. The next day I started putting content on LinkedIn because I used that as a tool in my corporate business. I had a global team. I was a global business leader. And so I was on this, vision quest, and I wanted to share it with everybody. So every single day since 2015 in August, I've put 2 or 3 pieces of content. And that includes all the names of all the people that I was working with, trying to work with, right? I was just telling the story. And so here we are in 25, and I haven't missed a single day. And that's one of the things I told Majid I would be doing in 22. I said, I don't have any money left, but I've been documenting this really carefully. And the first thing he said to me, he said, what do you know about AI? And I'm like, oh, I don't know a lot about it, but I know it's powerful. Well, now I know it's powerful because you can take all that content I created and you can pull it into an AI program, and you basically can map my entire brain process for the last 9 years, which has just been entirely focused on trying to bring this thing to life. And so they have all the receipts on everything that's taken place between 15 and now. And as other people start trying to steal from me, I suspect that powerful people are sort of just letting it happen, knowing that, they're going to come in and take over that value at the right time. And I think we're almost at that right time now.
So speaking of that right time, is there a way that you think Drive Shack or Topgolf could have been financially successful in the long term?
Oh, without a doubt. So you got to realize that. So what I learned about Topgolf is it wasn't really a company. It was more like almost like a Ponzi scheme, right? So the Topgolf is not there to grow the game of golf. Topgolf is there to get real estate people to buy premium land, and then they pay for they would supply the debt to build out these big, venues, and then they would sign a 30-year operating agreement with the Topgolf team, which didn't own any assets. And then the idea was Topgolf would then turn around and sell it to a new buyer for, 5 times what it's worth. And in that way, you sort of create a money laundering operation. And I mean, it's what it was. I mean, everybody knows it. It's the worst kept secret in the, in the whole industry. And so they just weren't trying, right? Of course they could have been successful. The first thing I did is wrote letters to Topgolf and TaylorMade and Callaway. And I said, this is back in 15. I'm like, just put me in your skunk works and let me figure out how to help you guys be successful. But the problem is they didn't actually want to be successful. And you can't help a team that doesn't really want to be successful, no matter how hard you try.
I have to, I'm going to put this comment up here, and this is actually John commenting. So this is John's comment, and that he was a doubter, and then through his conversations with you, fully understand everything. So let me tell you how that relationship developed. So up until 22, when I got invited to the Live tournament, a lot of people saw me as somebody that was really working hard to advance the game, right? Including John. Mm-hmm. He didn't understand that his bosses were actually trying to kill me, right? But I knew they were. And yeah. So, when the Live tournament came around and when I realized that I was really screwed, I started acting almost like a marketing agent for Live Golf. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because everybody saw Live Golf as sort of a, ugly competitor trying to screw everything up, whereas I saw them as sort of a savior to advance the game. And so John was one of the ones that was critical. He loved the game like I did, and we would have these back and forths on LinkedIn. And he was really hard on me because he thought I was getting paid, right? Everybody thought I was getting paid by the Saudis, and I wasn't getting paid a nickel. But because he's not afraid of a hard conversation, and I'm not afraid of a hard conversation, over time we got through it. And now he really, is one of my biggest advocates. And that's, to me, that's really what it's all about. I'm going to ask this question, and I have felt this way for the longest time. The golf entertainment industry, I feel like they've struggled in getting non-golfers for long-term success is one of my pet peeves. I feel like they've exploded too much. I feel like they've become Walgreens. You see one on every corner, basically, at this point. Golf being the 7th most popular sport in the world. It is what it is on that list. I know, for example, my wife, she went to Topgolf once, hasn't been back since. Doesn't have any interest to go back. She's like, "You want to take the kids? I might go, but I don't really want to go." What could they have done differently to attract the non-golf crowd to return over and over again? And I want to piggyback that question to what is NextLinks and what does this do differently to attract that crowd as well?
Yeah, so I never finished answering your question completely about the VR, right? So yeah, we got this putting game that really was great. It's just think of it as 9 holes of putting. Everything's a par 2, right? And each putt is a 10 to 40 foot putt with really nice, just what you see on the golf course when you're lining up your birdie putt, right? So 9 would be the best score you could get, in our game. And then the best anybody ever scored in 2 or 3 years in the lab was like a 12, I think, right? So 6 1 putts and 3 2 putts. And that was with a lot of golfers running through and playing that game. Well, that game is ideal for just turning into a VR game, right? Because the putting is pretty easy to mimic in a VR world. And so what I was pitching is take this game we've already invented, put it into a video game format, and get people to start playing it and competing against each other in leagues in that format. And then they're going to get the bug and they're going to want to play, more and more. So it's really about understanding the whole funnel of golf, right? So the reason that I was stuck for the whole time was I didn't see how I could ever be successful unless the pros at the elite level wanted to play the game that I felt the market needed. And so there was sort of a monopoly power over them, right? And so I didn't realize back then that they weren't free to just work with me, right? If they decided to work with me, they'd get in trouble with their bosses, right?
Yep.
And so I had to solve that problem. So in order to grow the game, I needed to really get serious about just trying to break the status quo, because the status quo leadership isn't trying to grow the game. They're a little bit greedy. They're just trying to make money, and they're not really looking after the welfare of the game. They talk a lot about, remember how cliche grow the game was? Like, so the reason we talk about grow the game now is for 10 years when I was outside the golf industry, that's all I heard. And I'm like, you guys should see the work I have to do, and you guys can't figure out how to grow the game. I mean, give me a break, right? And I realized, so I asked Peter McAvoy as an amateur, from Britain, and he was the amateur champion the same time as Fred Ridley. And so he's one of the first guys I went and met with over in London. And I asked him, I said, Peter, how come, like, this isn't that hard? How come the game's not growing? And he said, because the people in charge don't really want it to grow. And I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. Right. So, but they don't tell the general public that. They go to the general public and say, oh, yeah, we want to grow the game. We want everybody involved. Right. In reality, that couldn't be farther from the truth. They just don't want anybody to compete in that space. And so by saying all that stuff, they can keep an eye out for competitors. And when they find a competitor like me, they just destroy them. Right. And then by that way, they can keep controlling the game. They can talk about growing it, but they never have to do it. And so, the real answer to growing the game is you just got to break the leadership chain in the status quo system and have real business people that actually want to see it happen.
Let me ask you, as you talk about growing the game, and you now have players like Tiger involved in these conversations and everything else sitting at the table. And I have always felt like these brands before in the golf entertainment industry, I've said this before on the show, I don't feel like they're trying to grow the game. I've always felt like they were trying to grow their bottom line, and that's really all they've been trying to grow. Do you see the players getting involved in these negotiations with the PIF and the PGA Tour? Do you see that as a good thing or a bad thing based on what you're talking about with growing the game?
So the players are vital to the process, right? So this is one of the things I talked about with Majid in 22. And Majid came out like 3, 4, 5 months later. He went and did a lot of due diligence in the U.S. marketplace. And one of the things he said is, I don't really see any real business people here. And then he made a statement. He said, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on looking out for the players' best interests, building teams, and growing the game. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what we need. Also, what happened when I left that Portland meeting, about every general manager and every pro golfer, it seems like, connected with me on LinkedIn, even though they never speak with me, right? So I can see the stats in the background, and I'm like, oh, wow. All of a sudden, everybody's following me, right? So I knew people were paying attention to me. It's one of the things I showed Majid on my LinkedIn stuff. I said, look, their game plan is to pretend that I'm not significant, pretend that I'm not, that they don't know me, that I'm some sort of a crazy guy. And then I would show them my stats that I had in the back room and all the people that were, I said, but they look at everything I do, right? Here they are, and it was like the list of all the usual suspects. And so that got his attention. And then when I left, like, I don't know, it must have been 200, 300, 400 connection requests came in on my, and none of them ever asked me a question, but I knew they must be watching, because I told Majid I'm going to be putting content every day. And so I'm like, okay, now I have some real business people that have been told to watch my action, right? Watch my content. And so I started getting really serious about how I'm telling this story. And I think that's what's led to where we're at. I believe that I have a lot of the GMs from a lot of the clubs, and I have a lot of the players already as real sort of invested in trying to actually break this thing and trying to help grow the game. So I think once people can see that it's actually possible and that there's people doing it, I think they're there, right? So we'll find out. We're sort of at that end game right now where, something's going to happen.
Well, that's the big thing here and that's what we talk about in the show all the time, is that there are ways to grow the game. Mm-hmm. So, and it's different ways. And to Steve's point about like his wife and being at Topgolf, like that's not really growing the game. It's making different opportunities for people, but you're not creating that repeat person to come out here and enjoy it. Like we all enjoy the game. And yeah. That's the part that we really want to see. We want to see this game grow so that more people, it's $1 billion industry. Why wouldn't you want more people putting money into this?
So that game I told you about, right? That was one of the real critical elements of it. I said, this has to be skill equivalent, right? So when you're putting, you need to be putting on, 11, 12 stimp meter greens that roll true and fast, right? When you're swinging, it needs to represent the actual swing. So then you're developing the skills away from the course. And now you get somebody that's got those skills and they step on the course the first time, and it's just a much better experience. And the problem is that none of those organizations actually were thinking sort of that holistically, right? They really were just trying to make a buck off the general public. And I mean, Topgolf didn't even start connecting themselves to real golf until Chip Brewer bought them and Callaway bought them, right? And then all of a sudden they're the next best thing that's going to grow the game. And I'm like, for the last 6 years, I've been telling you guys, and you tell me you're not even about golf. You're just about social, right? And so, but they didn't have the skill equivalent, right? When you swing a club at Topgolf, you get the mechanics, but the ball doesn't fly the same way, right? So the game that's needed is this alternate game that's actually entirely skill equivalent. And it takes you all the way through the putting, all the way through the hitting, and you actually get a score in the end. And you actually want to come back and play, right? So the real litmus test is, does Tiger Woods, does Rory McIlroy want to play this game, or are they just playing it because they're getting paid? And if the answer is the second one, then the game isn't right? Because there's got to be a way to create a game that they want to play, right? Like a video game, right? How are you not going to want to play a game that you can play that's the same skills as real golf, and you don't have to travel? You can do it for an hour or two at night while you're hanging out with your friends. Everybody's going to want to play that game, right? But 100%. Not if it's not a real game, not if they haven't actually developed it the right way.
Well, I think that's the great thing about that. Like, I love playing golf. You're never going to get me to not love playing the actual game of golf.
Right.
But when I can't play the game of golf, if I can do something like that, that's fantastic. And for someone like, I'm looking at my son, who you've seen run in and out of here a few times, I've had to jump off of screen. Like, to get him into the game, like, he loves the game too. He likes hitting it. We hits golf balls in our basement. But if he could have that, like, kind of video game thing, because that's where technology is, that's where kids' mindsets are now. You could see that and then have that translate. Oh, I can do the same thing here that I can now do on the golf course. So now I have two ways of playing this game. It's a game changer.
And that's kind of what the status quo is marketing, right? That's what they're trying to convince everybody is going to happen. But they didn't actually put the work in to build the game. And that's the conversation I was having with Magic. So remember that the Saudi leadership wants golf to be a pastime sport like baseball for us, right? And it's part of their 2030 vision for their whole, country. And they came to the U.S. thinking they'd figure out how to do it. And instead they saw, wow, there's no entry level process here, right? There's no Little League. There's no, there's nothing, right? So they realized they had to do it themselves. And then they ran into the same. So here they are with all this power and all this money. But the status quo leadership didn't care. They still thought they could control anybody, right? They're like, we own this thing, right? So they were running into all the same challenges I was running into for 6 or 7 years before they finally gave me a face-to-face. And so it was, we had a lot of things we could commiserate over together. And so I kind of felt bonded to the whole process, even though this last 2.5 years have been rough because I've almost been like a retired guy, right? I have to pretend like I'm not doing anything. While the real work gets done in the background, hopefully, right? So I'm still taking it on faith that they've been doing the work, but I strongly suspect that they have. And now I have a pretty big team in stealth mode, getting ready to work with me to advance the game here in the U.S. marketplace. That's one of the things. I offered to move to Saudi Arabia. I said, imagine if you want me to move to Saudi Arabia and work with you guys over there, I'll do it. I want to be a part of this, right?
Yeah.
But then I followed it up with, but boy, I could be a lot of use for you guys in the U.S. marketplace. I said, I know all the leaders and they all pretend they don't know me, but they all do. And that's how we led into that conversation where I showed them the receipts on that,
Yeah.
So it's been fun. I mean, I told somebody the other day, as hard as it's been and as rough, you see the light at the end of the tunnel. And honestly, I think I would do it again, even though it's been absolutely brutal. And people are going to see how brutal it was because there's a lot of receipts on sort of the bad ethics that they chose to use against me. And that is likely to all come to light. So for me, I don't even want to dwell on it. I've forgiven all that, right? I just want to grow the game.
That's great. So speaking of that, growing the game, and when will we be able to see this NextLink facility come to life? Like, I want to go play it tomorrow. I'm not gonna lie. You got me excited about
I'm
this.
with
I
Greg
wanna
on
go.
that. Like,
I got winter here in Indiana, so I want one where I can go and play 18 holes and have fun.
Greg, you know what I want to do? I'm going to say this. I want to do a tavern from there.
Yeah,
We need to do a podcast from there. Like,
I strongly suspect that it's already developed, right? So one of the places I think it may exist is have you guys seen Bryson's building that he built? So Bryson DeChambeau
I've seen parts of it.
It looks like it's about 100 feet long and 40 feet wide. And I'm like, boy, that would be the ideal place to sort of complete this game. And they showed a photo of it like 2 years ago. And I'm like, that must be the lab in the US marketplace. And so if I had to guess, I'd say Bryson already has that game in his back pocket, and that the Saudi leadership has helped in very significant ways to develop it. So I think this golf court concept that I've been talking about for years now is ready, but I don't have any evidence of that other than intuition and the knowledge I've gained by like really studying this marketplace and paying attention to every move. And because everybody knows I'm on LinkedIn and I pay attention to what's going on there, when people want to give me a message that they don't want anybody else to know about, they just throw something out there in public and I pick up on it and nobody else does. And I'm like, oh, that was a nice nugget, of information. And so part of that's even like this photo I just told you of Bryson's building, right? Mm-hmm. When they showed it, I'm like, oh, that's got to be it, right? And then I haven't heard boo about it since then. So
no, they've been very tight-lipped since that announcement came out that he was building something.
Yeah, so if I had to guess, I'd say he's the guy, right? So DJ is really involved in this also, right? When this was all going down, at the beginning, I was talking to his chef Mike. When DJ won what did he win? The Masters or the U.S. Open or something? But I think the Masters, right? Did DJ win the Masters?
Finally, yes. He won the fall. He won the fall.
No,
Masters
he won the fall Masters. Yeah,
he won the fall Masters.
Well, he credited some of it to his chef, and then next thing I know, his chef showed up on LinkedIn, and we started talking, right? And so I know the chef was talking to all the caddies, and he was talking to so I knew I was getting traction, and so that was before DJ left to go to Live. And so when DJ left to go to Live, I'm like, oh, that can't be coincidence, right? That has to be related. Because DJ was talking to the TaylorMade team. I think the TaylorMade team's involved in this, right? I think that Sunday Red is just a joke brand. I think Tiger's going to take on the NextLinks brand and move it forward, right? I offered the branding too, and NextLinks is a great name, right? So Topgolf, NextLinks. So, I think the maybe Tiger and Rory are going to walk away from Tomorrow Sports and TGL and become NextLinks. That's what that's my prognostication. You said John says I'm right a lot, right? So we'll see if I'm right about this one.
Okay. So let me ask you as we wrap this. Obviously, the people can find you on LinkedIn. Where else can they find you? That's
it, really. That's my place. Once I'm on LinkedIn, you send me a private message. If there's a reason to talk, then I'll give you my cell phone number. Now I've got a team that'll sort of get involved and screen for me, right? So it's not just me talking to people, but we're building a force of people that really are high character individuals that really have a passion for growing the game. And we all sort of have this same mission statement that we've agreed on. And so we're just pulling new talent in, sort of as the talent arrives, and it's arriving more and more frequently and higher caliber.
Anytime you want to come back on here and drop some knowledge here, we will be happy to have you.
Yeah, Dave, you know how to get a hold of me. I messaged you on LinkedIn and you got back to me right away. So yeah, anytime you want to come back on here and talk, you are more than welcome.
This is the first show I've been invited on in like 2.5 years, right? Because the plan was to make me disappear. And so if you guys had invited me on this show a year ago, they would have done something to make life miserable for you. And you wouldn't have thrown that offer out because you're like, oh, that hurt too much, right?
well, I'll tell you what. Nobody's paying us. I can tell you that. And at the end of the day, we are about making golf and making the game better and having a good time doing it. So we appreciate you coming on tonight. And thank you so much for the time tonight. I'm going to say this to you. Let's go Dodgers. I will say that as a Red Sox
I got
fan.
no ill will towards the Dodgers. I want it to be a great series, but I do want the Yankees to win.
So do you guys think Shohei is actually a real human being, or is he's some sort of a unicorn? Because I mean,
I'm not even going to get onto that conversation. That's a whole other situation.
I want to see Judge play his best and Shohei play his best.
Oh, me too.
And that's what I want to see. I want to see those two go at it.
You know
I want to see Mookie. I want to see Mookie be the difference maker. That's what I want to see, because that's his time in Boston.
I was glad to get through the Padres. Right, we had 2 must-win games to get through the Padres, and San Diego is the epicenter of the people that are trying to destroy me. So that's really
why we took the Padres' best player to the Yankees. So
yeah.
Hey, Dave. Dave, will we see you in Orlando in January at the show?
Seems that way, yeah.
Fantastic.
Cool.
I've got a team that's sort of advertising that. So I'm not committed yet because I need this disruption to take place, right? I need to.
Okay.
We need to see like action from the status quo player. Like that's the beauty of this whole thing is the PGA Tour is nothing without the players, and the players are no longer afraid of those guys, right? And so I think we're in a good position. And I think we're going to see some disruption.
Well, hey, if you're coming in January, shoot me a message. Let's set up some time to sit and talk while we're face to face in January.
Sounds great. You look familiar, so I probably saw you there. I've been to every show pretty much since 16. So,
as have I. So I was even at the one in 22 that was like the skeleton of a show.
Love it.
Hold on one second. Hey, Matt, I'm going to say this. If you're coming from Kentucky, I want some bourbon.
Love it.
All right,
well,
Dave, thank you.
Come see us.
All right, fellas. I really appreciate the time, and it was great chatting with you.
Thank you for taking the time as well. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
I mean, there you go. I don't know what you're gonna say.
I don't know what else you can say to that.
I
heard a lot in there. I'm gonna go to Smack of the Week. Go to Smack. I want to get that
Smack of the Week, and then we'll go into last call. All right. Here we go.
So this week's Smack of the Week, I sent to Dave and Greg the other day, and we had a good laugh about it. Greg has asked that I do this during the PGA show week when we're all together, and I will tell you that the chances of that happening are none.
What the fuck? Is that Winnie the Pooh? Fucking Winnie
what would you do if you saw this on the golf course?
Fucking Winnie the Pooh.
4. I'm playing through.
Unreal. Get in there. Get in there, Winnie.
I think I'm more disappointed that the other person is not dressed up as Tigger or Christopher Robin
or Piglet.
Yeah, like you're missing an opportunity here. Like,
right.
I would wonder how drunk I am. Like, what did the cart girl spike my drink with at this point that I'm seeing Winnie the Pooh on the golf course?
Yeah, correct. So, no, that is, I would 100% agree with that. So, let's get into last call. Let's just jump right in live. I'm going to post it. Cheers.
There you go.
Thank you, Bradley.
Thank you, Bradley. Steve.
Thank you. Ush, I don't need to see that. I really don't need to see that.
Yes. I take back my original statement. Folks, I'm going to make this right now. If you want to see Steve in a Buc-ee's onesie on the golf course, put it in the comments. Make sure it is everywhere until we get to the PGA show in January. And I think this needs to be content that the fans want to see, apparently. So
I'm going to say this. If this show gets 7,500 views.
7,500 views.
7,500
so share
views.
this with everybody you know. Get 7,500 views of this show. Steve will get a Buc-ee's onesie.
You know what? There's a the Orlando golfer says he has an Olaf onesie that I could use as well.
Well, here's what we'll
I'm
do:
gonna,
get to 7,500 views, and we'll give you a choice that the people can vote.
yes, 7,500 views. There we go. I would do this in a heartbeat, and I wouldn't even care which one. I'm just letting you know. I would totally do this.
Oh, 100%. If we did like a Jurassic Park where we're all in these inflatable
Yes,
dinosaur costumes,
100%.
that'd be
I would do
hilarious.
this.
Yeah,
I would
that
do
we
this
don't need
on
that. You don't need any views for that one. That
No,
just
we
might
don't need
happen.
any views for that one. The last couple weeks, funny enough, I don't know if you caught it. Did you catch the name that he dropped?
Which
That
one?
Barney Chip Brewer.
Yeah.
So I obviously I think we need to figure out how to get Chip on the show at this point, because I mean, he's been mentioned twice on our show. But I think when you look at what's gone on in the golf industry, last week we had a hostile takeover conversation regarding a company and organization.
Great show. If you haven't watched
Great
the last
show.
week's show,
Yeah,
go
I'll
back and
shamelessly
watch
plug
it. And it's a great show on clubs and different TaylorMade, Adams Golf, and what happened there. Like, it's a great show if you've ever wondered about that and wondered about like corporate takeovers and things like that. So go back and see that show.
But this week, in talking about what's gone on, and seeing it from a different perspective, and I'm going to say this is a much different perspective than you and I have taken on this show. And I'll be honest, like, we haven't been a big proponent of the Live product. I'll be fair to say that from the beginning. I think this is a little eye-opening. I do think that there is more to come. But I also think that last week we talked hostile takeover. I never expected to hear the words Ponzi scheme on our podcast.
That was an interesting way to put that. But one thing I will say, when he talked about Live, I think we have the same vision. We've always said Live needs to be something, and if it's going to be team golf, be team golf. Don't try to be this both. And Dave really drove it home about this team golf aspect, which I think is a great thing and a great alternative to the PGA. I don't think you compete with the PGA. I think you have a team golf. Mike, I don't know. But I think you need to embrace that team golf thing, because I think that's a great thing. Like, we watch the Ryder Cup, we watch the President's Cup, but now and we watch sports. The Yankees are a team. Like, we watch these team events. You can do that with golf and be a league that I think would be entertaining. I think like the big three in basketball doesn't compete with the NBA, is a different kind of team event, but is a smaller team event. And I think that's what could be great for golf and would, as we all talked through this, actually grow the game.
I also like the idea, and I'm a little torn on this because, Greg, you lived here in this city. Dave did as well. I know a few of our viewers live in this city now and have been there. We had a kind of a facility that wasn't quite this in Dewey's Indoor Golf.
Mm-hmm.
I believe at one point you and I went there at one point, maybe once.
Dewey's was... It was more leaning towards the simulator side of this.
It was, but they had a putting green in the middle. They did have a large middle.
But it was just a putting green. It didn't have a concept that Dave did. So, like...
Right. But here's the thing that I see is that I saw Dewey's get in a lot of trouble after Topgolf opened. Like, they put Dewey's and had to change their whole concept into something different. I'm going to be intrigued. I'll be honest with you. Again, I don't see in this, you know what I see in this market is I see a market where my 10-year-old who has ADHD would love this. It would be like, Dad, golf is cool because I want to go do this. I still don't see my wife wanting to get involved in this. But I do see it drawing more kids into the game from I want to do this, but I also don't see it resulting in rounds on a golf course and translating to more people playing golf. I don't think Topgolf, COVID was the best thing that ever happened to golf because it pushed people out. It was a sport they could play outside. They didn't have to wear a mask. That we had some stupid rules about cups with pool noodles or taking the flag stick out or inverted golf cups.
Come on, some of your
But-
best rounds were putting on those COVID rules.
But I also think that the idea that golf itself, like, will this help grow the game and will this help? I'm still, yes, it might help with kids, but I don't think it's going to help grow. And this is my personal opinion. It's not going to help golf course and golf course operators.
So
It's
I'm
not.
gonna disagree with you in a sense,
Okay.
because here's where I think it will. I think that there are people out there like you and I play golf. We go to a golf course. We're comfortable at a golf course. Like
Right.
we are the stereotypical people of a golf course. Like, let's be honest.
Right.
What you see in a country club or what you see everywhere. But some people that haven't gotten into the game feel uncomfortable going to a golf course. Sometimes they feel it's stuffy. Sometimes they don't want to play 18. So like that grow 9, like play 9 initiative, I think was a good thing to kind of ease people into it. But they also don't want to pay that a big price for a golf course because they've never done it before and they don't want to waste their money
Right.
if they don't like it. That's where I think this could step in and say, hey, play it kind of virtually, play it in a simulator and get better at it, and where you're more comfortable with the game and your own confidence with the game, and then translate that to a course. That's where I think it
Yeah.
could grow the game. I think that it's going to get those people that, and like we said, with Topgolf's not that. Topgolf is just, it's a driving range. It's a glorified driving range. It's fun.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Topgolf is fun. And it's a great way to learn the game, but it doesn't do that aspect. And I think that's where Dave was going with this.
Yep.
It's easing people into it and getting them comfortable with it. Like if I'm putting and stuff like that, like think about your son, my son. Like
Yep.
if they're doing this virtual thing, they're going to be like, oh, hey, Dad, now can I come to the course with you and do that on the course? And then they start doing that. And it's like, oh, can I play maybe a few holes? And they do that. And you kind of ease them into that. That's where I think this will have a big impact
Yeah.
for that. But it has to be two things. It has to be fun. It has to be affordable. And you can't like outprice yourself in this, because I think that if you make it the right price so people can do it on a regular basis, or you make it where you can have it at home in an affordable simulator, and that it's just bigger when you get to the this place, that's what I think would be a lot of fun of this. I almost think back to the old Nintendo World Championships. Like you could have this, like you play it at home and you play Nintendo and you get better at it, and then you go play in a
Yeah.
World Championship for that. It
Yeah.
eases you into that, and you can do it in the comfort of your own home, but then there's places to get out there. And I think that's where I see the biggest impact. No, we don't.
I like the idea. But no,
That's
you know-
called your beer league. That's a beer league of golf. Like that's what that is.
you know, when you talk about, and I want to wrap our show, we've gone longer than we typically go. But you talked about the idea of, and I'm going to compare two different golf courses. Let's compare Winter Park 9
Yep.
and our favorite golf course in the entire world, yours and mine, and
Colleton River.
Dave's, Colleton River, the Die Club. The idea that you can walk into Winter Park 9 and play 9 holes in a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops if you wanted to. A bathing suit. Like you could play in a t-shirt, bathing suit, and flip-flops, and nobody would say anything to you at Winter Park 9. Versus, and there's nothing wrong with either of these.
No.
Where Colleton River, you better be in pressed khaki shorts and pants, no cargo, collared shirt. Do I think there is a place for both of those to exist? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
In this society. But when you look at the idea is which of those two golf courses is growing the game more right now? Winter Park 9 is growing the game.
Oh yeah.
But Colleton River, once you grow the game and you've grown into the game, that's one of those destinations, those bucket places that you want to go.
Steve, I'm going to use this perfect analogy for that. Is there are different types of cars out there.
Right.
And going to like a private club and something like that, that's like your Lamborghini, your Maserati, like
Yep.
your high-end cars. Like that's what that is. Going to Winter Park 9 is a Honda. Like it's a basic car. It's fun. It gets the job done. It's fun to drive. It's fun to play. Like And so that's affordable, and that's what this
Yep.
game needs. Is you need all
We
ends
need
of that.
we need all
because
aspects of it. Yes.
you get as
Yes.
many people into this game as possible, and just know, because here's the thing: you and I've said this before. When we go to play golf, sometimes we have low handicaps, and I'm sure you've gotten this before from people. Oh, I can't play with you, and we're like,
Yep.
no, I'll play with someone who has a handicap. As long as you're having fun, you're respecting the game, and you're not like taking 7 hours to line up one putt. Like, if you're out there just to have
Play
fun,
good,
and
play
golf,
fast, play bad, play
Yeah.
faster.
just have fun, and that's what
Just
it's
have
about.
fun.
Like,
And I think, it's funny. Mike is on the show. Mike played with me in the Spark League this summer.
Mhm.
And we got paired up with two guys. And one of the guys looks at both of us and says, "So which one of you is the one handicap?" And I looked back at him and
And
I
you
was
said
like,
it's
"Can't you tell?" I said, "Can't you tell by looking at us?" And he laughed. And he goes, "I'm kind of intimidated." I said, "Why?" And I handed him our koozies. We have some koozies made with our logo on
Yep.
them. And he was like, "Wait a minute, what's this?" And I was like, "The podcast that I run." He goes, "You run a podcast that has a rocks glass in it as a logo?" And I said, "Yeah, 100%. He goes, "Oh, okay. You just calmed me down." And I was like, "But at the end of the day, play golf with good players is going to make you better."
Yep. And this
And
game
I like
brings
playing
people together.
I would much rather, if you play fast, I would much rather play with a bad golfer than I would with a good golfer that I don't know.
Yes.
Because
I will.
I'm gonna have more fun because we'll sit and talk, and he'll be like, they'll pick your brain and talk about what are you thinking about and things like that. And it's just a lot of fun for me to play with a higher handicap. It really truly is. But I think that there's a lot to be said though for the idea of having fun on the golf course.
Well, and that's what I've always said about this. I mean, I've got lucky. I got paired with a Masters champion one time at a golf course and got to play golf with someone who has won at Augusta, has a green jacket. I've played golf with someone
He
like
gets
that.
an invite. He gets an invite to the Tuesday dinner. Like, let's be
Exactly.
real.
And he was as much fun to play with as some random people that I've played with, because it's just about talking and getting to know people. Golf is a social aspect, fun game, and that we
Yep.
all have in common. Like, it should bind us. And like you said, the Saudis want to make it a national pastime, like baseball does, and that binds us too. Like,
Yep.
that's what this game's about. It doesn't matter about your handicap. Are you going to have fun? And you can play with anyone out there.
Yep.
That's all it is.
No, I agree. I do think one of the things, and really quickly as we wrap this, one of the things we talked about with Dave, we've said this on this show, and it's one of the things I think TGL is doing better than what Liv has done, is they're putting cities behind their teams, so they're getting local area buy-ins to the teams.
And that's 100%, I think, a great idea. So,
And
All
I
right,
100% agree with that. So,
with that, thank you, Dave, for being our new
Yes.
Dave on the show. If you want to replace our Dave with Dave Shultz, I think that could work.
that could work too.
He could be our new Dave.
We'd probably need to get 100,000 views for that one.
That's true. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well,
All right.
cheers, Dave. Thank
Cheers.
you.
I'm really fortunate, man. I mean, have an opportunity to build something that's
that has gone viral on our TikTok. That somebody was commenting about playing Whistling Straits